The Leafs have a major problem on their hands as they suffer their worst loss since 2014. Let's break down the horror on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Hopefully, if you did use the Sleeper app today, you did not choose the over on Ilya Samsonov saves, because you definitely did not get it. Boy, oh boy, Dave, that was a bad one. Leafs get blown out in Buffalo 9-3. It's the first time since 2014 that they've allowed 9 goals. That was back against the Nashville Predators. I believe you quite literally on yesterday's show said, who would give up 9 goals when we were chirping Buffalo for doing this the game prior? And then you said, ha ha ha, not the Leafs, jokingly, based on that Nashville game. And they came in and they just were not ready to play. And they got their doors blown off them. It was just a horrid game, top to bottom, all around.
They came ready to play in the first couple of shifts where they looked like they were going to score. Samsonov gives up the first goal on an ugly shot.
Brutal goal.
We'll score 2 more just to give our goaltender a chance. And then, 18-wheeler off the cliff. I don't even think an 18-wheeler is even big enough to describe how that one felt.
Dude, that was just one of the worst goaltending performances one of the worst performances. I don't even want to put it all on Samsonov because the team didn't do him any favors either. Like they were brutal in their own end defensively. They didn't give him any help. That being said, like you still do need to give your team a save every now and then, especially when you are under the microscope right now for the way that he's been playing of late. You would think, okay, let's try and make a save here. And I thought for like one little sliver of a second there that he made that one stop on Tage Thompson in the second period. I think it was maybe
on the power play, I think it was.
Yeah, can't remember if it was before or after the Dahlin goal. It was either 3-2 or 4-2 at the time. I can't recall. But he stops him and makes 2 stops, actually, kind of on that sequence. But the big one against Tage Thompson, and then made another one about a minute later. And you're thinking, like, okay, is that what he needed? Like, is that what he needed to get his confidence back in order? And then, no, that was not the case. Another goal was scored, moments later. And again, can't recall if that was before or after the Dahlin goal, but he ends up getting yanked, gave up 5 goals on 19 shots, taken out of the game in the second period. Man, it was a rough one, though. I mean, it's getting concerning for this guy, and he's starting to say some of the things that concerned you with Jack Campbell, too.
Yeah.
There was a comment post-game from Ilya Samsonov that really makes you wonder, like, is he in trouble here? Is the team in trouble when it comes to Samsonov? He came out and said, quote, "The last couple games, it's been real tough. I have to figure out everything in my head." Talking about the mental toughness and how he's in his own head right now. He said it's got nothing to do with positioning. He's just in his head right now, and nothing can go right for this guy. I mean, the worry meter is definitely at all-time highs right now for Samsonov.
Like I'll give the panelists credit that they tried to say, he just, I think it was Elliot Friedman says you just got to go back out there and practice and work on things. It doesn't matter what Samsonov does on the ice in practice. If he's not all up here in the head, no point, right? When a pitcher can't locate pitches because mentally they just can't do it, what do teams usually do in those situations? We saw it here in Toronto with Alek Manoah. You're going right down to the minors. Like we're sending you away. The Oilers did that with Jack Campbell. Unfortunately, that didn't help with Jack Campbell because he's been brutal in the AHL. But yeah, like Samsonov, like look, you appreciate the honesty, but you also get worried about the things that are being said because he's saying it and we're seeing it. After he got pulled, I saw that camera shot in the tunnel and I said, not good.
No, I mean, how can you feel good about yourself though? Like this is just every game it goes out there is getting lit up like a Christmas tree. This is the ninth worst. I saw the stat going around, ninth or seventh. Maybe it was the seventh worst save percentage by a Leafs starting goaltender through their first 14 games, and the worst since like the 90s. It's pretty bad what's going on. There's been some bad goaltending in on this team, in this organization over the course of the last 100 plus years it's been around. And for him to be putting up some of the worst numbers in this organization's history just goes to show how bad it's been. But again, like I don't want to sit here and say that it was all Samsonov because that would be absolving everyone else for how poor they played. But man, I haven't seen that poor of a defensive effort in a long time. I mean, that was just these guys were puck watching the whole time. They weren't really moving their feet at all. They were getting beat. They were making, dumb plays, turning the puck over. They weren't able to get the puck out of the zone. And it just turned into an onslaught. And it seemed like, Buffalo was able to just do whatever the hell they wanted with the puck in the offensive end. And then when they did get shots on goal, Samsonov just wasn't able to make those stops. So, like you said, that Greenway goal to kind of start things off, that was ugly. That's an ugly goal that cannot go in. You cannot allow that one when everyone's already criticizing your game and everyone's already on you. And then from there, like you got to think, like, did that deject the team? Like in their heads, are they like, oh no, here we go again? And then all of a sudden they're like, we got to cheat for offense now because this guy's not going to be able to stop a beach ball. Like, could that possibly be going through their heads? Is this why we're seeing some poor defense? Like, is it a bit of a chicken or the egg type of thing where one maybe is causing the other? I don't know, but it was just a terrible performance all around tonight.
Yeah. Oh, I like right after the Samsonov gets pulled, what happens? They're on the power play. They allow a shorthanded breakaway because Connor Timmins and Max Domi don't decide who wants the puck. Oposo goes down, he scores, and you see that goal going, and you're just like, nah, they don't have it anymore. Like
No.
it's that game was done at that sixth goal. Like you could say at 5-3, you get one, you're within a goal. As soon as that sixth goal went in, I said, no, this is it. And like people will say, this team has come back from 5-0 down. And what did we say? What did we say? You can't go in with that mentality that you can come back when you've played that bad and when you have a deficit like that. That sixth goal went in. I said, yep. And everything that happened to them tonight was deserved. It wasn't like the Rangers game where you can say, you know what, a few bounces went to. Nope. They played like garbage and they got the result they deserved.
Here's a quote from Austin Matthews. Quote, one of the worst games since I've been here. Bad hockey game by us tonight. It's very disappointing and embarrassing feeling for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad that he came out and just flat out said it. One of the worst games since I've been here. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, this team hasn't given up a 9 spot while you've been part of the team. Like I said, it's been since 2014 since the team's done that. And what's concerning is this is kind of the second time that they've, given up a lot of goals here. And actually, technically the third time if you want to include the other night, but we're not going to include that one. But you look back at last week against Columbus and then this week here tonight against the Buffalo Sabres. Like that's 2 games within a week where this team is just getting outworked and defensive and mental lapses and then just can't get a save. It really is. It's unexplainable also because this team is way better than this. Way better than this. There's no reason for this team to ever lose by 9 goals. You and I could probably get in net and probably keep it to 8 or less on most nights. Like, probably
I've
not.
been in that before. Maybe you feel a little bit better about your
No, I
position.
don't. I'm diving out of the way of a Tage Thompson clap bomb. No chance. But you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like there's an NHL goaltender should be able to
Oh, yeah.
go in there and stop some of the shots. Like that, the goal where he got yanked on too, like that Tage Thompson, that was from the top of the circle. It's a pretty, it wasn't that like it was the hardest shot in the world. It was a wrister, but there wasn't much in front of him. Beats him pretty clean. It was from the 50 feet out, 55 feet out. It's not like he was right in front. There was tons of time to be able to react to that shot. He's just not tracking the puck well. He was very much off to the side too. He left the entire left side of the net open for Tage to shoot on. Yeah, he's not in a good spot, man. And look, I there's some a lot of discourse right now going on about what could the Leafs possibly do. And I mean, there's a number of options here, from either letting him play through the struggles to sending him down. Could they possibly try and trade him away? There's some people talking about Robidas Island. I don't think that's going to come into play here. I mean, as much as we joke about Robidas Island, I mean, there at least the people who end up there, there's history of injuries and legitimate ones, not just mental toughness boo-boos, which is what seems to be the problem here with Samsonov. Why don't we come back, maybe talk about a couple of the possibilities, and we can work through them, maybe what we could see happen with Sammy, and then we'll continue to break down the game. We got the good, the bad, and the plenty of ugly from tonight's game to get through as well. Before we get into all that, though, let me tell you guys about one of today's show sponsors, and it's our good friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with the eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. We're reacting to the Maple Leafs getting blown out by Buffalo 9-3. Austin Matthews calling it the worst game that he's played, or the worst game he's been a part of, at the very least, since he's been here in Toronto. It was brutal, man. It was very, very bad. And it didn't even get better when Samsonov ultimately left the game, got yanked after giving up 5 on 19. Marty Jones comes in, and the team basically gave up on him in the third period. It's kind of unfortunate, but he ends up putting up 4 goals on 15 shots as well. I think you look now, it's 2 games where he's given up a decent amount of goals. Yeah, the one in New York, we gave a pass. A lot of those were going off of bodies and off of skates and had weird bounces and whatnot. But now the numbers don't look as sexy for Marty Jones, we could say. And has the bubble burst there? I don't know. But now there's a little bit of a problem in Toronto with the injury with Joseph Woll, because you've got Jones, maybe he's coming back down to earth. And then obviously we've got a complete 911 situation with Ilya Samsonov. How do you think the Maple Leafs should go about his future coming up here?
Oh, it's tough because, again, it's not like you can say put him down the Marlies because you already got your third goaltender up here. Like if this was happening with Joseph Woll around and Martin Jones in the minors, you could potentially make the case to then send Samsonov down to the minors. But because you don't have anybody else down there, you can't send him there. Your best option right now is to give Martin Jones the next game, and you keep going to him until you need Samsonov in net. I think that's the only option the Leafs really have that they can do without making an external move of trading for someone.
I want to call out Sheldon Keefe really quickly too.
Okay.
Sheldon Keefe. So today they obviously made the decision to start Ilya Samsonov in goal, and when asked about it after practice, what went into the decision, he basically came out and he was like, "Well, he's got to play games. Like it wasn't a vote of confidence of any stretch. It was pretty much like he's got to play a game at some point. Like I don't feel comfortable, but he has to play at some point here. So we're gonna throw him out in Buffalo and sink or swim. Hopefully he swims, but he didn't. He sank. And whether or not Samsonov heard those comments, I don't know. But if I were Samsonov and I heard that, it's like, wow, my coach doesn't really have faith in me. I mean, geez, how's that going to make me feel? I'm already down in the dumps, and now my coach is basically like, we got to play someone. Like, he's got to play at some point, so why not give him one of these struggling opponents and see how he does? And I don't know, man. When things are going wrong, when it rains, it pours, and man, it's pouring right now on Samsonov. I did see on TSN, Frankie Corrado did say that there's a possibility that Samsonov might need the Jack Campbell treatment, where he goes down to the minors. There's a possibility that they could do like a conditioning stint with him and get him down there for a couple of weeks, where it's not necessarily waiver required like Jack Campbell was. Like, is that something you think the Leafs would entertain here? And I say that only because, like, would they entertain this? Because there's not really a guy that could come up and take his place that and can be confident that can give you competent NHL goaltending anyways. Like you just said, Martin Jones is already here. Like there's the Martin Jones is that they don't have any other NHL goalies. They got some prospects who might be playing well, but you don't know what the hell they're going to do for you. They might be worse than Samsonov. You might screw them up, like you've screwed up Samsonov if the guy's going to play that crappy in front of him. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's a really weird predicament when it comes to deciding what to do with Ilya.
The worst part here too is let's say you bring up Hildebeest, like a lot of people you could probably would suggest.
Release the Hildebeest. The amount of tweets I saw about that tonight.
So let's say they do that where they send Samsonov down even for a conditioning set to bring up Hildebeest. You're now one injury away from a guy who has only played in North America for 2 months. Mm-hmm. It's not even putting him in the net. It's putting him in the net with the way that this defense played against the Buffalo Sabres, a team that was blown out 9-4.
Yeah.
And did the reverse.
I will say, outside of tonight, we've seen this defense play a lot better of late, right? Like tonight was awful. Worst game of the season by far, 1,000%. And that's saying something because they've had some pretty bad games so far this year. But it's not even close. This was awful all around. All 20 players who were in tonight's game should be embarrassed of their efforts, just like Austin Matthews said. And he was. Like, if we go through the good, the bad, the ugly, what was good tonight? What was good? I was trying to think of it. What the hell was good tonight?
I don't want to give a good. What's the point?
It's not even that you want to. Can you? What was good tonight?
Yeah, like the only good thing is that technically the top line was the only line that didn't get exposed. Looking at all the other ones, but that's not saying much. Like there was legitimately that top line actually had a positive expected goals.
Mm-hmm.
They also, were on the ice for more scoring chances for than against. Again, that's not saying much when the team is out of it.
Yeah, but like they were also on the ice for 2 goals against.
And 2 goals for. They were even.
Yeah, they were even on the night. Good for them. They were even on. Actually, no, they weren't on the ice for 2 goals for. Because one, who else scored?
Well, Nylander was on the ice for 2 goals for. Oh, sorry, that was all strengths. At even strength.
Yeah, at even strength. Okay, yeah, because even strength. They were
1-1.
outscored 2-1.
Mm. Oh, for Nyes was 1-1. So I guess somebody else took Nyes' spot when that second goal went in.
Yeah. Anyways, regardless, yeah, because in the third period they ended up putting Matthews and they kind of flipped them around a little bit. But regardless, my point is that like even if you look at the top line, like okay, they won their minutes, yeah, but they actually lost their minutes because they were on the ice for more goals against than they were for. The only thing that maybe if we really wanna give somebody some credit, um, the puck movement on the power play was really good. That was about it. There was really good puck movement on the power play, right? They did score one power play goal. It was a second unit that scored the power play goal, I might add. But at least they were kind of whipping it around, and I thought that there was good movement. They had good looks and decent opportunities on the man advantage, while they were still somewhat in the game. And then when it ran away from them, it was gone. But that was the only thing. Like I struggled to find something good, but I did think earlier in the first half of that game, the power play did look dangerous. They were kind of zipping it around, but outside of that, man, there really was not much that was good about this game. Like, sure, Matthews scored again, right? Now he's up to 26 goals on the season. The road to 50 and 50 is still, he's still chugging along for that. Domi scored his first goal on the road this year for the Maple Leafs. And outside of that, man, it really was not a good night
No.
for
No.
anybody. Anyway.
The worst of it all. I mean, I don't know if we want to even do it bad and ugly because it was all ugly.
Let's go to the ugly because, it was very ugly.
Connor Timmins and Simon Benoit.
Hey.
That might have been like I could not have pictured a worse like defensive pairing in a really performance since I've been on this podcast, since I've watched this team play.
Yeah.
It was brutal.
It was pretty bad. Just so much puck watching. Like it's as if they forgot they were playing the game, right? Like legitimately just staring at pucks, turning pucks over, getting their stick lifted. Not a lot. Like it was just not a great game at all from those guys. And you look at their expected goals tonight. It's about as brutal as you thought it would be. Connor Timmins, 12%. Simon Benoit, 15%. But holy smokes, I didn't realize how bad that third line played tonight. They got caved in tonight. Holy. Go look at the third line and how bad they played tonight.
I looked. I wanted to know who the guilty culprits were.
Dude, they had expected goals, like as a trio at 5-on-5 of 6%. 6%. They didn't generate a single scoring chance tonight at all. That was brutal. They obviously were on the ice for a couple of goals as well. Yeah, not a good night for that third line. I mean, it wasn't a good night for anybody, granted, but boy, the underlying numbers are just flat out ugly for them.
No, it was brutal. And that's a game here that shows, can you trust that third line in the playoffs?
God, no. I see. I've never had much trust in that third line. Like offensively, sure. I think that they've got a little bit of offensive pop to them, and for some tertiary scoring, yeah, they might be able to give you that. But you're giving up defense, and that's always been the question: is do you want Max Domi to be your third line center? Like, you know what you're giving up when you do that. Do you want Nick Robertson to be your third line winger? You know what you're giving up when you do that, right? You're giving up the ability to be a two-way threat, a two-way line, to be a matchup line. And tonight they got exposed. Like that's what happens when you spend a lot of the night in your own end because you're not playing well and you're forced to defend. And it just did not go well for those guys. And that wasn't against a playoff team. That was against a non-playoff team. That's against a team that's currently 7th in this division outside of a playoff spot. Good luck if you have to play against Vegas in a cup final. Good luck if you have to play against the Rangers at some point in the playoffs in a 7-game series. Carolina in a 7-game series. Yeah, it was just an all-around ugly, ugly night tonight. And, hopefully they can just close the book on it and move on quickly. Like, I know after the game, Sheldon Keefe said it's not a game that they're gonna forget, but it's not a game that they're gonna like go and watch the tape. They're not gonna watch the tape and learn from it, he said, but it's definitely something that'll stay in their minds for a while and hopefully is a motivating factor going forward. You buy into that, or do you like you made a face? Why'd you make a face when I said that?
How can you not look at that game and say, like, okay, I get you're not going to overreact to one game, but this isn't one game. Like, you've allowed 5+ goals how many times this year? There's clearly something wrong when you do that, especially against specific teams that play a specific style against you.
Dave, what did I get roasted for on Twitter a week ago for saying? Do you remember? Do you remember when William Nylander came out and said in the middle of the second and third
Oh
intermission, he
yeah,
was like, "Oh, we knew we could score 5 goals.
yep,
Like we had that covered." And I came out and I was like, I don't really like that. That's their mentality. Like, sure, I
yeah,
suppose when you're down 5-0 to have that mentality is good. But if like, hey, if we go down 5-0, we're good. Just like tonight, they were down, 5-3, 6-3. And they're like, yeah, it's all good. We'll come back. What? You don't always get to come back. And this is what happens. And then you break and it turns into an absolute gong show and a blowout 9-3. Like that's what happens most of the time when you trail by 5 goals. Like, you're usually not coming back from down 5-0. Like, the Maple Leafs were the first team to like do that, come back down from 5-0 in the third period all year. So that does not happen all that often, which is why I don't think it's a good idea to be okay with that mentality. Not that they are, but tonight's a night where it's like, maybe if you started on time, maybe if you played better and you didn't wait until the third period to get going, which they didn't this time anyways, but things maybe would have been different. And that's all I meant last week. And I look at tonight and it's like, what? You didn't have confidence you could score 5 goals when you went into the third down 6-3? You didn't have confidence that you could come back and score 4? What happened? What
mhm.
happened? I thought you knew you could score 4 or 5 goals against this team. What happened, Willie? Hmm? Where's all those people now? They're like, "Oh, I love that confidence." Yeah, when it happens, luckily, never does. It's a 1 in a million time it's gonna happen.
It's easy to say
Usually, this
when
is
you
what
do it.
happens when you trail big after 2 periods. This is usually what happens.
Yeah, and this is also what happens when you decide, we're just gonna throw in the towel for tonight. The other team's like, you know what, we're just gonna keep going.
Dude,
Ready for fans to show.
and what song did they play after scoring? I think it was the ninth goal, may have been the 8th goal, but they
It was
played.
with the last few minutes of the third period.
Yeah, actually, yeah, right. It wasn't a goal song. It was just like, I don't know, during one of the breaks in play, stops in play, they played a little Hall and Oates, and "You're Making My Dreams Come True," and you damn well know what they were doing with that one. That was a
Mhm.
shot to all the Leaf fans who were in attendance and all the Leaf fans who were watching the game. You know that was done purposely. 'Cause and honestly, little tip of the cap. I will give a tip of the cap to the gamesmanship when it comes to that. But boy, that was a shot right to Toronto, wasn't it?
Well, not only that, I am so glad I don't have to hear "Breaking Free" for a little while because I was getting sick of it too.
I didn't hate it. I'm not gonna lie. Didn't well, okay. I didn't like that it
After the
was on Toronto, but it's like, hey, the fact that "Breaking Free" is Jeff Skinner's goal song, I think is still pretty sick. Like, it's just funny. It's just funny.
he went from "Party to the USA" to "Breaking Free."
It's funny. I'll be honest, man. I think it's hilarious, and sure, I don't want to be playing it during Leaf games, I guess, but it is a funny goal song, to be honest. This is a conversation for another day, but the Leafs got to get there, man. They got to get to a point where they are willing to do the personal goal songs. They should have done that this year, ultimately, because there was
Easy to
so
do.
much fanfare about changing the song, and then they made the decision to change it, and it caused a big stir when they went with the Kid Cudi remix, and eh, yeah, it was a big problem. But anyways, a conversation for another day. let's put a bow on this bad boy. Let's turn the page, just like hopefully the Maple Leafs can. Let's come back. Let's chat about tomorrow night's game. It's a rematch against another team that made Toronto look like fools a week ago. Columbus is coming to town, so we will get back into that game and help you tee it up. But before we do, let's hear from one of our show sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Matthews could score 50 goals. The Leafs could hoist the Stanley Cup, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because of Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether guys like Crosby or McKinnon or Matthews, McDavid, any of those players will score more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in any given game. And to win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Leaf fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You can get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. We are a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast. We do shows every day, Monday through Friday. You can find them wherever you get your audio podcast from. Also up on YouTube, you can subscribe to us. We're on our road to 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. We've got we got like 4,400 or so. So we're not too far off. Not too far off. We were hoping to get to about 5,000 by the All-Star break, and we might come up a little short unless we can get this bad boy shared up and perhaps get a bunch of you guys who are listening, because we still got about 50% of our listenership that is not subscribed. So if you are a daily listener, first and foremost, appreciate you. Thank you so much for being an everydayer. Go ahead and subscribe to the show so you know exactly when those new podcasts drop. All right, we'll close the book on that ugly performance in Buffalo and move forward and hope that they can have a much better outing against the Columbus Blue Jackets Saturday. Not only because of what happened tonight, obviously, with that game against Buffalo, but also for how they played through that first 40 minutes last week against this Columbus team. Leafs, this can't be a mail-it-in game anymore. Like, I think you could have made the argument that, like, if they would have played tonight, they would have won, right? This conversation would have been way different about today's game and today's show. And then we come into it, I probably would be thinking, oh, this might be another bit of a trap game. Like, the Christmas break is coming up, and perhaps their heads won't be into the game, maybe, and tonight could be a bit of a sloppy one. I don't know if I'd read too much into how tonight goes down. I don't have that thought anymore. Leafs got to come out tonight, and they got to show up after the performance that they just had in Buffalo. It is a mandatory rebound night for Toronto. Don't care if it's the final day before Christmas holidays. Got to show up against this team. Have to.
I don't even need this to be a blowout win. Like, first off, win.
No, you win a game 3-1 where you shut it down and you only allow like 6 or 7, scoring chances. That's all I want. That's all I need. Give me a defensive effort, not an offensive effort, a defensive effort.
You're gonna play this next game on the 23rd, okay, against Columbus. Then you don't play your next game until the 27th. For the love of everything that is mercy and holy in my life, I do not want to have to talk to family members over the next week about them losing to the Columbus Blue Jackets after getting their butts whooped by the Buffalo Sabres.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, my uncle's a diehard Leaf fan. The text that I get from this guy, shout out Uncle Chris, he listens from time to time. The text messages that I get from this guy, I mean, he was very like anti-Dubas. He was classic, like old uncle, big Wendell Clark guy. So he's a Domi guy and he's a big Ryan Reeves type of guy. But man, was he ever not enjoying this game tonight. I guarantee it. I didn't get a text from him, but I bet you didn't enjoy that one. And he definitely didn't enjoy the game against Columbus, because I did get a text from him saying this team's a joke. Hopefully they do not put up a similar performance here. And yeah, I don't need to be hearing that on Christmas Eve, how much of a joke this team is from Uncle Chris and my other uncles and cousins and all those family members that I have who are also big hockey fans. But regardless, you can't roll back with Samsonov, right? Like there's no chance this guy gets back into the net tonight. No chance
No.
this weekend he touches the pipes.
No, you can't put that guy back in the net after what just happened and what he said. It would be irresponsible to the team to do that. The only way he gets into the net is if Martin Jones physically cannot go there. And then the worst case, you know what some people are gonna want? Just tie Martin Jones to the net. Do the Goldberg. Do the Goldberg from the Mighty Ducks. Just tie him and just hope that you can stop him.
Or you do old school beer league where you just like turn the net. Like turn the net up against the boards, and it's like, you got to bank it in. That's how you're going to score your goals tonight. And then, hey, you're forced to defend at that point if you're Toronto. Yeah, like it's got to be Martin Jones. Like I know he also wasn't great tonight. Gave up 4 goals on 15 shots. But I had the team just absolutely quit on him. Like he just they left him out to dry on so many chances there. It was just honestly sad to watch and embarrassing. So I think they go back to him. Absolutely. I'm curious what you thought about, if you think there'll be any other shakeups to the lineup though going into this game against Columbus after such a terrible outing with this group. Like there was a weird move actually that was made. We didn't really talk about it yet, but they decided to shake up the D pairs out of nowhere, and we saw Brody go down to the second pair with Jake McCabe, and then we saw Liljegren go up and play with Morgan Riley. It didn't go well in game number 1. Did not go well at all, obviously, for these guys. Do you think Keefe goes back to the way they were, or is he going to try, hey, that was just a garbage game, is what it is. We'll go back to it and see if we can get something going in this game against Columbus?
The only thing I can think of is if you have to make change to the point where you have to spread things out a little bit. Like that third pairing, I cannot see Simon Benoit and Connor Timmins on the ice together for a little bit.
Well, I'll probably get Lagesson.
You can bring Lagesson back in, but now you're gonna are you okay with Lagesson Timmins? Or do you need someone a little more do you need to put someone else with Timmins just to make sure that that's gonna be like, do you put McCabe with Timmins and then you put Lagesson with the Liljegren, and then you keep Brody and Riley together? Brody wasn't great tonight. Like
no.
It wasn't really Jake McCabe the problem with that pairing. It was more TJ Brody hasn't looked very good lately. I mean, this year hasn't really. He's been not brutal, but he hasn't been great, right? So I don't know. Like that was a weird thing when I saw it, and I'm just like, all of a sudden now you're just gonna make that change.
You know what? Like I'll be honest, I didn't hate it when I saw it. Like I
understand why they did it, but it leaves you in a tough situation where you have a shutdown pairing, but the other team dictates the matchups. You don't dictate the matchups.
Yeah, which is why, when you're on the road, you prefer to have a pair that, you have more confidence in shutdown. Because again, you send them out on your first, you're the first guy to send them out. So, I do think that it makes sense to do it more so on the road than you are at home. At home, it's easier to shelter guys than on the road. But I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think it just had to do with they wanted to get a look at something.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just what it came down to. We talked about how McCabe the other day, how, when he came back from injury, he flipped over to the right side out of necessity, and he's actually played well. And I think they liked him. And even Sheldon Keefe today spoke and said he had, grown comfortable with watching McCabe on the right side. And I would imagine it's a two-way street where McCabe is also growing comfortable himself there. And now they're like, okay, well, let's experiment some of these pairings. And, that's why you saw that experiment come in tonight, where you saw Liljegren, who has had success with Riley in the past. All right, let's move him up. Let's see how it goes. And then obviously see if we can, get a formidable shutdown pairing. Because look, I'm a firm believer that I think that pairing would work if they get going. That could be a good shutdown pairing. And if that's the case, now you're looking at the trade deadline to grab a D partner for Morgan Riley, and then you have a pretty solid third line, depth defenseman, and you can kick Liljegren down to the third pair and have Liljegren and Giordano when he gets healthy. Or you bring in another guy perhaps to go onto the left side. So I think that there is definitely a world where that pairing can work. And I think they were just trying to see, all right, let's get a view of this in Buffalo, but it blew up in their face tonight. Not to say that it's going to like you can take this and throw it in the trash can and say, all right, this pairing can't ever work. We're done with that. I think you do come back to that pairing here tonight or Saturday night in Columbus. I would like to see them.
I don't think you can consider this a one and done for that pairing.
Yeah. Like Lagesson, I would bring Lagesson in for Benoit. That is a move that I would make for sure. But outside of that, I think I keep the top two pairs intact. You make the changes to the third line, like after one bad game. Do you think you make changes there, or you just roll out the same lineup and you challenge the team and you're like, just be better, flat out, be better.
No, they do. Like so many areas, they have to be much better. And one switch is going to make the biggest difference. I mean, the only switch that's going to make a potential difference is Martin Jones and net over Samsonov. But looking at this game after Samsonov left, that was after 5 goals. There's still 4 more goals scored after. And why were those goals scored? Mainly, the team flat out just played terribly defensively.
Yeah, so They gave up.
Yeah.
Totally gave up. Hey man, Matthew said it best. One of the worst games that he's seen since he's been here, and I would agree. That was one of the worst games we've seen in a long time out of this Maple Leafs club. It's not often you do see a professional hockey team kind of quit midway through a game, but kind of saw it happen here. It was tough to watch. But hopefully, again, they can rebound and regroup. They've got one more game before the Christmas break. It's Saturday night. It's against Columbus, a team that, the Leafs should have a chip on their shoulder for how things went last week anyway. So tonight's loss should just be extra added motivation from what happened last week against Columbus. They should want to get revenge that way regardless. So hopefully they can get it, man. Hopefully they can, because when this team does play to their potential, when they play a little pissed off, when they play their game, they are one of the best teams in the NHL. There's just no way you could say they're not. Is there deficiencies? For sure. Do they have goaltending issues? Absolutely. But when it comes to producing offense, this is a team that does it just as good as anyone else in the league. So we'll see what happens against Columbus. All right, buddy. We'll leave it there. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. Go ahead, leave a like and a comment if you're here on YouTube. Let us know down below. Was that the worst Leafs game you've seen in the Matthews era? Let us know down below and what you think is next for Ilya Samsonov. All right, we'll be back with another episode for you guys on Monday. Enjoy the weekend. Merry Christmas also.
Are we going to do a show for Monday? Because it is Christmas Day.
That's a good point. I think we'll probably take the Monday off. We'll join the National Hockey League.
You might be in a food coma, Mike. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, we'll call it a holiday, and we'll be back probably Tuesday. I would say we'll come back and maybe do a little preview-ish of the World Juniors. Canada will be kicking things off, so that might be a good World Junior Day, especially with the Leafs not being in action until the 27th. So look forward to that over the weekend, but hopefully everyone has a very Merry Christmas. Enjoy the time with your families and loved ones. What's that?
Bon Natale, Joyeux Noël. I don't know any languages, unfortunately, but those are the other two I can provide.
Those are the two that we know. Absolutely. All right. And like I said, enjoy the weekend. Till then, keep locked right here on Locked On Leafs.